Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is Qasim Nazir and I'm here today to talk about JMeter. So before we start learning about JMeter, let's move on and see what would be the agenda of our today's session. So we're going to learn about the performance testing with the JMeter and we'll see how we can install, configure and understand its UI. Then we'll understand different components that are in JMeter, for example, thread groups, samplers, listeners, how do we do the assertions in the JMeter, how we can do data-driven testing um, in using like CSV files, how we can run JMeter with the CLI, what are the functions and variables in JMeter, and we'll also see how we can manage the API requests in the JMeter. So um, let's move on. Um, so what is performance testing? In the software testing process, when we want to measure the ability of software on different matrices like the speed, the response time, the stability, reliability, scalability, or other resources, then we are actually doing the performance testing for that application or a software. So the main purpose of performance testing is that we identify and eliminate any kind of bottlenecks that where our system is slowing down, or if there is any bottleneck in our application. So performance testing is done in order to eradicate those bottlenecks or the speed issues, the response time issues, so that when our application is on the production or on the live, so they are error free with respect to their performance. All right. So we are going to see a tool that is JMeter, and this tool is from Apache, and it's an open source tool. We can like use it for our projects, and we don't have to pay any license for it. And so let's uh, let's start it with the JMeter. All right. So for the JMeter, we need to um, have a few things checked. For example, first we need to let's open the command prompt. First, we need to see that if we have Java program installed on our computer or not. To check that, we need to write a command that is Java version hyphen version uh, version. So now you can see that the version is returned. So if you have Java installed on your computer, the version would be returned. If not, we have to install Java, and that won't be an issue. We can search it on the internet, and from java.com we can easily install we can get and easily install this. So it would be a simple step. Okay, once we have Java installed, the next step would be to download and install JMeter tool. So where we can download the JMeter tool and install it, simply write on download JMeter. So the first link, click that link. Now you can see here we are. So in the binaries, we can click on this Apache JMeter zip, and once click, this would be downloaded. So I already have this, so I would skip this, and let me show you where I already have this. Right. Okay. Let me get that. Okay, here you go. So this is the zip file which I already have on my computer. I downloaded it from the same resource which I showed you. So we need to unzip this. So I have already unzipped it. So once this is unzipped and you have extracted that, and now we have to move into the bin, right? And in the bin, if we are running JMeter on our Windows machine, then we have to double click on this file, which is jmeter.batch file. And if we are on the Mac, then this is our file to run the JMeter. So what we can do is that we will double click this file, and it would start running JMeter on our computer. So let me, yeah, okay, here it is. So now we have JMeter open on our computer. We can also do this by the command if we do not want to like double click on this batch file. So for that we need to write like we have to let me show that as well. So I would simply close this one and close this one too, close this one, and I would come on to the folder where we have JMeter. Just give me a second. Where is JMeter tool? And we are going to let's JMeter. Okay, here you go. Right. So we have to go into the bins folder and then select here and type cmd and hit the enter. It would actually open up the command prompt and it would take us to the same directory where we have actually uh, written cmd and hit enter. Now we will on the Windows we'll simply write in the bin we'll write minus it would be to start the JMeter we would I actually forgot that. Let me try this. No, it would be start JMeter meter dot batch. Okay, yeah, work this time. So this run, and here we go. This is JMeter now running on our computer. So you can either click on the batch file, double click on the batch file and run it, or we can do it through um, the this command. Okay. All right. Let's. So this is JMeter's interface. Let's try to understand few things related to the JMeter's UI. So in the file section, we can create a new test plan. So test plan is actually a full test case. It's not that test plan document that is used in software quality assurance, but a test plan here is actually a test case that we are going to run, right? And then we have different templates available, and for the templates again this is the template. So these are the shortcuts that are available. These are like most frequent use um, functions, and they are placed here on the quick bar, and all of them are available on above menu items in their at their respective positions. For example, if we want to run a request, then this is the run button, and if we want to stop it, then this is the stop button. And these two button are for to clear anything that is being shown in the listeners. So what are listeners or other things we are going to see in a while. All right, so let's create our first test case and see how it works. Right, so I have already created a test plan here. If I don't, I would click here and this would give me this window, and we can give it any name. For example, I'm saying my first test case or test plan, whatever. And as long as I save it, now you can see that this um, would be saved under this JMX extension. So anything so the extension for the file that is saved in the JMeter is JMX file. So if you have JMX file, we can like run it in the JMeter. I'm going to save it. So you can see the name of this test is changed. All right. And moving on, now we are creating our first um, test case. So there are a few things that we need to um, uh, understand. So I'm going to add, and the first thing you see is thread group, users or thread group. So I'm going to click on this and let's see what it is. So again, so thread group is actually the number of users. For example, if we are going to test a website, that if I say that I'm going to test a website and I mention 100 here, so it means that 100 users would be 100 users load would be given to this request. So for example, I keep it as 10 for now, and thread group name, this can be changed. So I'm making a system users or testing users, any name can be given. So once that is given, I'm save and name is changed. Okay, so you can see we have different options here. So these are action to be taken after a sampler error. So what is a sampler? We'll see in a while, but sampler is actually in simple words, it's a request, and we'll see the HTTP request for today. There are so many other requests as well, but we'll only focus on the HTTP request and Java request for today. So if due to any reason our HTTP request is failing, so in that case, if we keep this checked, continue, so what it would do is that, for example, if we have 10 users load and for the first user it failed due to any reason, so it would continue to the next user without stopping. And if we have multiple thread groups, that it will, like, if it fail on the first thread group, it would jump onto the next. And similarly, it would we can also, if there is an error on any sampler, we can stop that thread, we can stop that test, or we can stop everything that is in the now. So we'll keep it as it is, which is the continue. Okay, the number of threads or users, these are the number of thread or users. And ramp up period is so for example, we have 10 users and ramp up period is 1. So it means that the load of 10 user would start at once. But for example, if I change it to 20, so it means that now the ramp up time mean that these 10 users would be added, but um, with the, you can say, so every 2 seconds a new user would be added. And for 10 users, the ramp up time is 20. It means that after the 20-second, all users would be using the system, and full load would be on that system, but it would be gradually increased. After every 2 seconds, a new user would be added. And loop count is that if we want to, for example, if this is the case, 5 users, and I say that 5, so now if I keep it 2, it means that this request would be run twice for 5 users every 5 seconds. So it means that actually there would be um 10 users on it uh, due to this loop count. And we can always do infinite, and so this is not recommended as it would like consume so many resources. uh, so let's keep it 1, and these are few other options we'll see in a while. So I'm going to save this, So now we have our first request, and it contains the thread group, which is the user. Now I'm going to add the sampler. The sampler is something that is for the uh, thread users. So I'm going to click on this and go to sampler, and there are so many samplers. So our focus for today is HTTP request, and then we'll also see for the Java request. So I'm going to select this HTTP request. Okay, so we can give it any name. For example, I'm saying first HTTP request, and now protocol, it can be HTTP or it can be HTTPS. If it is HTTP, then we do not need to mention over here. But if it is HTTPS, then we explicitly need to mention over here. Okay, let me go here, and for example, um, if I uh, choose this side, and okay, I'm going to copy this. So this is a sample test site, so I'm going to use this. Okay, how to place values in these? I'm going to place, let me open a notepad real quick. Okay, so first of all, I would, um, so in the HTTP, I would simply write HTTPS, which is the protocol, and then I would copy the server name, which is until here, which I would place here. And then in the path, we need to see that if we have like we are going to another page to that server. So I would copy this and paste this in the path. Right? And I'm going to save this. Once that is saved, now we have our sampler request ready. So there are a few other options as well, like parameters, the body, and the file upload. And these are more related to the API request, which we'll see in a while. So our first request is ready. The third thing we need to include in our program is the listener. What is a listener? Listener is um, component in JMeter that is actually used to, you can say, uh, for the reporting. If we are running this request for like 5 users, we actually need to see it running. So for that, we need to include a listener. So for the listener, I would do is that I would go into this and add listener. So there are so many listeners in our program. So I would choose, for example, first one, which is this, and then I'll uh, save it, and let's move forward. And okay, so now we have almost all things ready for our first test, which is the test and the thread group, and then the request and the view result. Okay, so I would select this and hit the run button, and let's see if our request runs successfully or it have any error. So I'm clicking on it. So you can see that my request is running. In the green icon shows that it is running fine. There is no issue in it. So for example, if I'm entering this to error it, okay, when I'm here now, I would, if I clear this, so it would clear my listener. And these two button, the difference is that if I have like 2 or 3 listeners, we can have as many listeners as we can. So if I am running too many listeners, so if I click this, so it would only clear the selected. But if I click this, so it would clear all the listeners. So usually I use this button more. Okay, now I have like added this semicolon here, and to see that if, whether or not it will error. Okay, now it is giving us the error. So this red icon is actually showing that the request is not running fine. So I would go and remove this, and I would save this, and again I'm going to add another listener. So for example, I'm going to add table view listener. Where is that? Okay, here it is. All right. So this is the tree view listener and this is the table view listener. So let me run our request again. So now we can see that our request has run. And if you come onto request, this was our request. If we come to the users, so this is the 5 seconds. In 5 seconds, our request run for the 5 users. So every 1 second, a new user was added. I'm coming onto this table view listener, and let's find out what it is actually telling us about. So these are the samples. This is the start time for a request, and then if you can see that thread name, it is saying showing us that one of one, one of two, one of three. So if I have, for example, two iterations here, so it would then show us two of two, two of one, two of three, two of four in that way. And this is the name of that request. And uh, if we come here and see, okay, connect time is actually when the first time our computer connected to that um, server. And this is the size of the byte that was these were the sent bytes. Obviously when we are requesting something on the HTTP, then we are actually sending data in our HTTP request. So that was the sent byte, and this is the data that is being returned. This is the status that is failed, and this is the sample time in MS that this much time it took our first request to actually respond us back. And if we see about latency, so latency mean that um, for example, let me open it. Right. So latency says, for example, um, our we are at 0 millisecond, and it took, for example, 2000 milliseconds, right, to load data. And the first byte of that data or bit of that data that was received at 1000 millisecond, and then we like keep on receiving until we received all of the two data in at 2000 millisecond. So the latency is that when did we receive our first byte. So this shows that this was the full time, and this was the time when we received our first byte. So if in case we have like a lot of data, then we can see it like in a more better way. And I'm coming over here, and in the tree listener we can see that this is the thread name, username, and all of that data we can see here in the sampler result of the tree. This was the request. You can see this is a get type of request. Actually when we are accessing a website, so mainly we are actually getting data from that server. So it was a get request. However, for the API request we can have get, post, put, patch, and delete, and other requests. And if I come into the response, so this is the HTML that we actually got from that response. And response header mean that this is the response header actually, and we can see that 200 OKs returned. And similarly this like shows everything related to the response. So this is how we can like drill down into the listener and see what are our expectation from a certain, you can say, request, if they are meeting or not. All right, moving ahead. So let's see another listener. So for example, see, I'm adding another listener. This is aggregate report. Okay, when we have like too many listeners, so what we can do is that I will press control and click on these, and then I would uh, disable. So now only one listener is actually um, working at the moment. So I'm going to do this. So now you can see that we only have one row here, which actually telling us that it is actually showing us the aggregate report. This is similar to the table report, but table report, let me enable this and run them again. So in the table, you can see that we have like 5 requests and 5 times it went to that server. In aggregate report, it is actually aggregating the data of all those 5 requests. So for example, the average time, the median time, 90% of the time when that request was completed or data was received, minimum, maximum time, error, throughput, and all these things. So this is the aggregate report, or you can say sum up report for, but this is similar as this uh, view result in table. So let's move on and see what else we have to see. Okay, let's um, let's add let's see the assertion now. So assert mean that we are going to check if the actual or the desired values if the same or not. So in the automation or in the testing, assertion mean that if we are comparing uh, in the test case, we have actual and expected values. So if there is a mismatch between the expected and actual values, so it means that our test case is failing. So assert mean whether or not our test case is failing. So if our test case is failed, assert method would return us a false value. Okay, let's move ahead and create and see where we can like have the assertions. Okay, I am going to actually disable this and this as well. So I'm going to go here into the listener, and first I would add a assertion result. This is a listener where we can see the result of the assertions. Where we can add the assertion, obviously we have to add that for our um, this request, because this is going to pass or fail. So in the assertion, I'm going to select the first assertion. We will not going to see all of them, but few of them. So I'm going to select this response assertion. Um, we can give it a name. Let's keep it the way it is. And now we can see that we have these field to test. So for example, I am going to test on the response code. I'm going to select this, and then I have to add a new parameter down here. I'm going to click on the add, and I'm going to write 201. So this is added. I'm going to save it. So what does that mean? It means that I have added an assertion for the response code. Now this is my expected value, and there would be a value that would be returned in this request in the response of this request. So if that value is 201, our test is going to pass. But if that is 20, it's other than 201, then there would be a failure, and we'll see that on the assertion result window. Okay, let's run this request. So we can see that the response assertion is telling us that it is failed. Code expected to contain 201, which is not the case. And why it is not the case? If we go on to the um, let me enable the tree view assertion again and clear it, and let me run this. So now we can see that it is failing, and if I go to here and it is saying that this assertion was failed, it it is actually looking for 201, which is not the case, um, because 200 was being returned here. So if I go to my assertion and change this to, for example, 200, and save it. Now I'm going to clear this and this assertion tab. Let me run this. So now you can see that it is only showing us the first request. It is not showing any message. So the assertion result listener would only show us like more data whenever our assertion is failing. So if I come on this and see, now we can see that this is showing us the green icon. And if I come onto the response data, if I select this, you can see this, we have 200 OK message coming back. So this is how we actually place different assertion um, to see whether or not our requests are running as per our expectation or not. Okay, let's try to add another assertion. So I'm going to go here, add an assertion. So for example, this time I'm going to add, for example, duration assertion. So this is actually now this is asking me different if I want to like compare the size of full response, or if I want to compare the size of header or the body or the response code or response message. So this is about that. Let me click on this and um, let me click on this. Just give me a second. Okay, all right. So I'm going to click on the full response, and now we have this um, like operators for the comparison, and these are type of comparisons. So for example, um, let me add, for example, maybe um, 2000 at the moment bytes, and save it, and I say equal to, right? And let's see if our it's failing or not failing. So let me run it. So obviously it is failing because uh, this is a very like descriptive message that the result was wrong size. It was this byte, and we were expecting to have it this. I can change it to that my test would fail, or if I want to see that if it is greater than 2000. So let me save it, and I will clean this up and run it again. So now it is running fine. Why? Because the size of the our request, if I come here and sample result, so we can see that size is in 8000. I can change that as well. Again, I am going to say that I am expecting 9000 bytes, and let me save it and remove it, run it again, and now it is failing for the same reason, because there is a mismatch between the expected values and the actual value. So expected value was like greater than 9000, but it is less than 9000, which is 8000 something. So our uh, test is failing here, and we can see here as well that it is failing for us. And in response data, obviously we can see that this all different values. This was it, everything related to it. Let's quickly add another listener, not listener, actually the assertion. And we can also like do for the JSON assertion, if we want to check if certain JSON data is being correctly returned or not. We can also do that for the XPath. We can do HTML assertion, that if the HTML contain certain data or not. Similarly, we can do for duration, and in the duration we see that if the time taken for that request is actually um, um, like in the milliseconds, we'll check that if that is like taking more time, uh, because we are checking, we are testing, we're doing the performance testing, so it means that time would also be a very crucial matrix for our test. So if I, for example, if I say that maybe 600 milliseconds, and if I clear this and I have results, so you can see I have different assertions. So what I can do is I can disable few of them and only run one. So this is failing because it took like this much time, and I was expecting to finish this request in 600 milliseconds. So this is called assertion in the JMeter. Let's move on, and I am going to let me open actress.in. This is a fake API site. Now I am going to um, run few API requests quickly. So this is the fake APIs request. So we have the get, post, put, and patch, delete APIs. So get is when we are actually in the get request. Actually, we are actually getting data from the server, getting resources from the server. Data, um, it can be a textual data, it can be a file. So get request is used when we are actually requesting data or resources from our server. So I'm going to click on this, and I am going to open this up. So this would be our URL. If I click on this and copy this, so now I am uh, let me save this and open a new one. I'm going to call it as API test plan, and I'm going to do all of those things again. I'm keeping it like 2 for now, and ramp up time, let's leave it here. I'm going to save this, and for example, I'm going to call it as API test user, API testing or API performance testing, whatever. Right, and we have like added the thread group. Now we have to add a sampler, which I am um, going to quickly add here. And APIs also APIs are also like the HTTP requests. So I'm going to choose this, and I have already copied this URL, which I'm going to um cut it from here and place it here, and I would remove this extra. And right. So I'm going to, this is the server name. I'm going to cut it, and I would say like paste it here. So this page equal to 2 is actually the parameters. What I can do is that I can either remove this here, and I can add it like here, where I can say like page and its value equal to 2, or I can leave that same as it was before. So this is up to me. Okay, so our request is finalized. So let me quickly add a listener. So I'm going to add a listener. So let's add this table view listener. So let me save it. Now I'm going to run this request. So run it. Let's see if it is like creating any error. Okay, it is not creating any error. All right. So I'm going to add another listener. This would be the preview listener. So let's me clean it and run it again. Okay, so now because I have added like 2 users, so it ran twice. Now if I come to the request and then response data, now we can see that it is actually returning me the JSON object. So it was a get type of request. If I come onto this and I select this, so it is showing us 200. Okay, and it was like a get request. If I see the request, you can see that it was a get type of request, and we are getting, and this is the page size which we already like discussed, and in the header we see this, and in the response data we have this JSON object return. So this is how we create a get request. And if I come to the HTTP request, you can see that the get was selected here. Okay, let me uh, duplicate this. Can I do this? I think I can do this, copy, and then if I paste it over here. Okay, right. Okay, what I need to do is I would say it was a GET request. Just want to give it a cleaner look. And then the next I would call it as a post request. So in the post request, so post mean that we are going to create a new resource in our server. So whether it's a database server or a file server, so it means that we are going to actually create a new record in the database, or we are going to place a new file on our server. So I'm going to now I'm going to select the post, and then this would remain same. This would remain same, and this is actually telling that in the users I'm going to create a new record. Okay, and I would remove this obviously because we do not need it. This is a post request. For the post request, what we need is the body. Now we need the body, like we have to send some data in the body. So let me come onto this fake API server and click on this. So it is saying that we need to pass this data in the JSON in the body, and this would be the response which we are going to get. So it would returning to a 1, and it would returning this as well. All right, so I'm going to copy this, which we need to pass. I'm going to paste over here. So yeah, so this is um, the JSON format, and let me see if I can beautify it. I don't see any option. All right, so let me save this request. So this is our post request. I'm going to clear this, and for example, come on here and let me run this request. So now we have, because we have like two requests in our for the thread group. So these, the get and the post, both run. We can obviously disable one if we want to, and like run only one. So onto the tree listener, let me come onto the tree listener and see for post request. So now you can see in the response body. So this was like the result sampler. This was the request. And if I see the response data, this is the data which we were hoping to be retrieved. So if I come over here and see, so you can see this is the data, the name, the job ID, and the created at. So you can see this is returned. And if I see the header, we have different values. And on the top, we can see that we were hoping for the 201, and same is the case. So if 201 is not returned, we can obviously add an assertion for this, and we can like see if uh, it went well or not. Let me quickly add another request. So I would simply just copy it and paste it here to save time. And I'm going to call it as maybe a delete request.
Hi Qasim, are you around? Right, so we are having some technical difficulties. So our presenter is down at the moment, probably due to internet disconnectivity. So he's going to be back soon. Please stay tuned. Right, people. So we are still having technical difficulties with our trainer today. So I hope he'll be back in a couple of minutes. Stay tuned. Hi, Kasim. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah. So for some reason you were dropped off the
Okay.
stream.
I
Can you
didn't
please
knew, and
start sharing your?
yeah,
No,
I was speaking all the time.
no problem. Can you please start sharing your screen again?
Yeah. So, RK, were you like listening?
No, not really. You were just dropped
Oh.
off the stream.
Yeah, no, I was just trying to know where I was. Anyhow, I have like
Uh,
started a new thing, so let me cover this.
sure.
So now we are going to actually see um, how we can like manipulate data from a file. So for that, I have added. Let me quickly do this again and say CSV file, and I'm going to obviously add a thread group quickly, and I'm leaving it as it is. Now I am going to add a new sampler. This time I'm going to choose the Java request, and obviously we need a listener. So I'm going to add a listener, which is preview listener. And then uh, another thing, we need to add a config element. Now when we are actually referring a file, so it means we need to add a you can say a config element. So we click on this test, add config element, and then the CSV data. There are so many like config element or setting that we can choose. For now, we are going to refer CSV data. So this is chosen. I am going to save it. There are like few options that uh, we can like give a file name here. And for example, if I am going to I am going to actually my D drive, and where it was. Let me quickly check where it is on the Let's Learn SQA. And then JMeter, and then files. Oh my God, so far away. Okay, here it is. So I have selected this file, and I'm going to say OK. And right, so now I have referred this file from the directory, and let me open and show this file to you as well. I'm going to click on this file. So this is a file, and it contains two like columns, the username and the password. So this username and password, the header of this file would be actually the variable names, which we are going to now see how we can refer them. So I'm going to close this. I'm not going to save this. All right. So I'm going to save this, and I'll come on this Java request. In the name, how we actually refer the variables. So I would say request, and then um, add a underscore, and then dollar sign, and then these braces. For example, the first variable name was username, and then again underscore and the dollar sign, and then curly braces, and I would say, for example, I would say the last name, maybe. Oh, not last name, it was password. So this is my request. You'll see in a while why I added this here and why. So now I'm saying that this JavaScript request, sorry, Java request would actually um, read this file and use data from this file. Okay, I'm going to clean this, and I'm going to come on this, and let me run this. So now you can see that we have request user 1 and 1 to 4. I'm going to open this file again for you, and you can see that this was the first like value, and first value from the file. And if I come onto here and I say like 2 instead of 1, and let me see if it makes any difference. So now you can see that we have when I ran it twice, so it has like two values. So user 1 and user 2. So this is how we actually uh, refer the variables from a file in order to run a request. So um, showing you again. So this is how we can refer variables in our requests. All right, we are almost done. Not sure if, okay, what if, okay, one more thing quickly, and that would be the last thing for today. I'm going to come over here into the bin, and I will say like cmd head. Until now, we were using the JMeter UI to run our request. What if I want to like, what if I want to maybe run this from the CLI instead of um, UI? So for that, we have to like go into the bin. Then I would write JMeter, and I would say minus n. This is the like syntax minus p, and um, now the JSX file. Okay, now the JSX file. Okay, so for that, I would see that what kind of JSX, JMX story file, not JSX file. For example, if I see strike.jmx, so I have like too many files over here. So I can choose one of them. For example, if I choose this mytg file, and I would say my um, tg.jmx, and then I would say minus sign. If we are using the command line, it means that we have to see the results. So now we are going to store these results somewhere on our computer. So for example, I'm going to say that create report and ask it as report um, underscore maybe tg dot csv, and I'm going to hit the enter button. Let's see if works. So it's saying that created a tree successfully. Now it has ended. Now let me find out this file if it is created or not. So report underscore tfg, report underscore tg. Let me find it out. Okay, we have this file created. Now if I double click on these files, you can see that different ways that we use the command line for uh, running our requests. All right. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed today's session. I see you. I will see you guys again with some other exciting topic. All right. Allah Hafiz.